News Alert, we're awaiting a decision from the White House on whether it's going to allow the release of that Democratic rebuttal to the GOP surveillance memo. President Trump suggesting last hour that a letter will soon be released. Marie Harf is a former State Department spokesman and a Fox News contributor, and Alexandra Smith is executive director of America Rising. Thanks to both of you for being here.
Thanks,
all right,
Sandra.
so Alex, you like to go by Alex or Alexandra, by the way. I was mean to ask you that.
You can call me either.
All right. So, Alexandra, please tell us what you think is going to happen here. You've got reports that the White House is inclined to release this. What's going to happen? This could happen at any moment. It could happen tomorrow.
Well, you know, it's my understanding that they are leaning towards releasing the memo, which I think is a good thing because transparency is really key in this situation. I think when things are kept in secret, it really fuels the rumors and the rancor that's already out there. And look, I mean, I think that investigating Russia's interference in the election is incredibly important. At the same time, it doesn't take away from that investigation or the very hard work that the men and women of the FBI do every single day, putting their lives on the line for us. It doesn't take away from all of that to question whether or not there was bias that motivated some of the actions of these FBI officials.
Marie?
Well, I think that she's right. And if President Trump doesn't release it, and I actually think that he ultimately will decide to, it will just underscore for a lot of people that this whole memo exercise has been partisan. You know, Devin Nunes went about this in a pretty partisan way. Adam Schiff responded by being partisan as well. So I think that we can have a discussion about FISA, which is the root of this memo issue, and all of that. But we shouldn't do it by cherry picking information. We should get as much information as possible. And I would underscore that throughout all of this, there has yet been no evidence that the FISA process was misused as it's currently written under U.S. law. And indeed, Carter Page was a legitimate target for surveillance. In fact, that application was renewed 3 times because he was.
You know, I mean, we're looking at a completely different situation, right, Alexandra, when you look at the fact that Democrats didn't want the Republicans' memo to come out, but yet the Democrats, they have a memo and Republicans say, get it out there. Let's see it all.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you look at the House Intelligence Committee, they voted unanimously to release this memo, whereas the Republican memo is on a partisan line vote. And so, I mean, look, I think that none of our institutions is immune to, misdeeds or bad conduct. And the only way that we solve this is through transparency. You know, sunshine is the best disinfectant, and I think that the American people really do deserve to see what bias, if any, existed at the FBI in this critical moment in our country's history.
All right, I want to get now to this Rob Porter story, resigning on Wednesday from his position within the White House, allegations from his 2 ex-wives about abuse coming from when they were married. Corey Lewandowski came on Fox News earlier today, and he was talking about the failure on the part of the White House in reaction to all this. Listen.
The public reports now say that multiple people in the building were made aware of this over the course of the last few months. And if that's the case and they didn't act, then the process and the procedure that should have been in place to ensure that individuals who have access to the most classified information and weren't going to be granted that access should have been upheld.
Marie?
Well, Corey's right, although he's a little bit of an odd messenger to be saying that, given he was accused of assault on a female reporter during the campaign. But he's right. This is not a story about a security clearance process. This is a story about someone who was accused credibly by 2 women of assault. The chief of staff has known that for many months and indeed kept this person on in that role. So look, people have been fired from the White House for tweeting something that was critical of the president years ago. They've been fired for smoking pot. They were denied security clearances. And yet someone who was accused of assaulting his wife was kept on. This really is an outrage, Sandra, and I think that John Kelly has a lot of answering to do today.
And it is the response of the White House and the way they handled this, Alexandra, that many are taking issue with. You just heard that from Corey. We've heard that from others. Ari Fleischer was on immediately following the president's response to this, and he quickly pointed out where was a comment about the women and hoped that they will be okay in all this. He wished him the best as he moves on and attempts to have a career after this.
I mean, look, I think that domestic assault has no place in our country, and particularly not in the White House. The White House has admitted, they've acknowledged that that they could have done better, and they ought to do better, because not only on principle is it that we shouldn't have individuals who are accused of this kind of conduct working in our highest of institutions, but it's also a national security risk to have someone who has this in their background have access to classified information and have so much access to the president himself. So I mean the photos are terrible. This is a terrible situation, and I believe the women, and I don't want to see this kind of conduct in the White House.
Right. And he is now gone, and the president and the White House, the White House has specifically said that we could have handled this better. Raj Shah, when he was giving his first press briefing yesterday, he said so. And the president just a few moments ago saying he felt awful when he heard about these allegations against this person that he knew well.
Right.
Marie, last word.
This isn't a public relations problem. This isn't, oh, we could have handled the stories better. This is a White House that had Steve Bannon there, who was also accused of assaulting his wife in the past. President Trump has been accused of very serious things. So there needs to be a serious discussion at this White House about how they handle this issue when the country's going through such a moment in confronting assault and sexual harassment.
All right, Marie Harf and Alexandra Smith, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having us.
Weekend.